Hey guys, sorry about that. This entire day got started off much later than I wanted it to. Hold on for 1 second. All right, the background was a little cluttered. I'm a stickler for details when it comes to what's in the background and the playback of these videos. Let me share this on my original channel. I'm going to play the intro for consistency, then I'll jump in. If enough folks come through, I'll let this go for about an hour and a half, maybe two, because the football game is coming on at 3:30. I meant to start this earlier, but I had to get some self care and I had to get into the gym and just had to get some self care. Okay. The officer of the law is here. Charles, I definitely want to hear what you have to say. I don't know if you've seen it. I heard some of your comments last night on Dr. Johnson's stream, but I want to get you in here. So I'm going to hurry up and say what I have to say, and then I'm going to get out of the way so some of the other guys can come. Let me see. Okay. Yep, live. Let's see. We are live. Okay, let me share this, and then I promise I will start. Okay, guys, I'm going to play the intro. I'm going to sip on my tea here to get my voice ready, and then I will jump in. I'm going to try to get what I want to say out of the way so guys like Charles can come up and talk and give their points of view. So I'll see you on the other side of this. I'll be right back. All right, guys. So I'm gonna do this one like a meal, like I'm preparing a meal. I'm gonna throw all the ingredients out, and I'm gonna mix them all together, and then I'm gonna open it up. Okay. So I just saw Wakanda Forever last night. It was late. I was thinking about doing the stream afterwards, but Dr. T.S. Johnson had another stream going on afterwards after filling my stomach full of a large popcorn with butter layered in the middle and on top. I went out to find more food. And then by the time I got back, it was 11 o'clock. So I said, okay, I'll do it sometime Saturday afternoon. Okay. An article came up in my feed today. It's a short one. I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to give some acknowledgments. Then I'm going to talk about, in general, reactions to this movie, the stuff that I've heard, and then I'm going to tell you what I thought about it, and then I'm gonna get out of the way in case some of the other guys or other people who come in want to give their 2 cents as well. So this was interesting. This came up in my whenever I open up Microsoft Edge. Uh, there's a news feed that comes up. This one I thought was interesting because it forecasts things people have been talking about regarding Disney and the MCU and this movie. So this reads as follows. If you're just coming in, please hit the like button. After Black Panther 2, Marvel may be in serious trouble. This is a short one. There's a picture of Winston Duke, who played M'Baku. Basa! Basa! M'Baku. All right. Black Panther Wakanda Forever doesn't just mark the end of phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but the beginning of a strange new era for the franchise. The long awaited sequel to Black Panther has largely received positive reviews. That's a point of controversy right there. Some of the other content creators, I follow um, Chris Gore and the Critical Drinker and those guys, and they've been surprised at the positive reviews. So part of this thing is it's thought that the professional reviewers, they're intentionally giving this positive reviews, even though in other circles and spaces, people just don't like this movie. People haven't liked it, the ones who've gone to see it already. Okay. So they're artificially giving it positive reviews. Okay. Um, the long-awaited sequel to Black Panther has received largely positive reviews, with most of the early acclaim attributed to the contributions of its director Ryan Coogler. Coogler, whose previous films include Creed, Fruitvale Station, is one of the few genuine auteurs who's worked with Marvel in recent years. His talent and specific perspective have been instrumental to the creative successes of both Black Panther and Wakanda Forever. So, how successful is Wakanda Forever? We'll have to see in coming weeks when we see the ticket sales roll in. But right now, they're claiming that it's successful. For that reason, Wakanda Forever's release warrants both celebration and concern for the MCU. There's a picture of Ant-Man and the Wasp 2 Quantum Mania. That actually looks pretty exciting because you have Kang the Conqueror and they're going down into the quantum realm. That trailer does look exciting. Okay, the MCU's future. In recent months, Marvel Studios has cleared away most of the mysteries surrounding its slate of upcoming projects, barring a few unexpected surprises. MCU fans know exactly what they can expect to see from the studio over the coming years. Okay, here's a video related to Marvel casting director defense, not recasting T'Challa for Black Panther 2. I haven't read that one. I haven't seen that. Okay, let's see. Where there are several exciting titles in Marvel's Phase 5 and 6 lineups, the studio's future lacks artists on the same level as Coogler. Outside of Wakanda Forever, the only other MCU title set to be helmed by a filmmaker with such an approach as specific as Coogler's is the James Gunn directed Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Gunn is leaving Marvel behind for DC after the release of Volume 3. Coogler, meanwhile, has yet to confirm whether he plans on returning to helm a third Black Panther film. Right now, most fans seem to believe he'll take a break from the MCU in favor on working on something else. That means phases 5 and 6 of the MCU are set to be largely devoid of distinct creators like Coogler, Gunn, Raimi, Chloe Zhao, and Taika Waititi. I think some of those directors have come under lots of criticism as well. I think they need the Russo guys like the Russo brothers and Joss Whedon. I think they need those guys back. The Nice Palace says, thank you for reminding me of this. He says, big discussion 76. You had me laughing my behind off on the drummer promotion at the theater. There was a drummer last night. Yeah. I was standing in line for my large layered popcorn and large soda. And all of a sudden I heard this drumming going off. And sure enough, a drummer came out for this. Go to my community tab and you'll see I took a picture of him. I'm not trying to belittle the guy, but that's what Black Panther and Wakanda Forever, that's the buzz that this causes. Thank you for reminding me of that. The Nice Palace. Okay. Let's see. The absence of auteurs. The MCU has been repeatedly criticized for being far too bland for its own good, even while more distinct films like Eternals haven't been entirely successful. The contributions of filmmakers like Coogler, Zhao, Raimi, and Gunn have done a lot to inject new life and creative energy into the MCU. Yeah, why not bring back John Favreau, the Russo brothers, Joss Whedon? What about those guys? They made pretty good movies. Peyton Reed, Matt Shackman, Jack Schreier, and Nia DaCosta are all capable filmmakers in their own right, but none are quite as stylistically distinct. The fact that Marvel's fifth and sixth phases are currently devoid of films made by artists like Waititi and Coogler only makes it seem more likely that the upcoming years will be the MCU's blandest yet. The inverse analysis: Marvel Studios has, for better or worse, perfected a factory style approach to filmmaking that's allowed it to maintain a tonal and visual consistency across the MCU. None of this is to say that their upcoming films will all be bad or inept, for as bland as they could be at times, the Russo brothers' contributions to the Infinity Saga were mostly well executed. There is, however, a real chance that the MCU is only going to become more unimaginative and monotonous from here on out. For all the Marvel fans out there who are hoping to see more variety in the MCU, that means the next few years are looking particularly dire. Black Panther Wakanda Forever is now playing in theaters. Well, to that, I would say the only thing Marvel and Disney need to do is look at YouTube, look at some of the Black Manosphere creators, content creators, look at the Critical Drinker, look at Film Threat, look at what people are saying about the movies. Come out of your boardroom, stop uh, congregating amongst yourselves about what you think people will like. Actually listen to what the people are saying. That's what I would say to this. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, okay, so I want to make a few acknowledgments here, because if you go back to August, I did a stream, about an hour and a half long stream with Dr. T.S. Johnson, and I used bits and pieces of that in my uh, video leading up to Wakanda Forever's release, talking about why people are unhappy with it, even not seeing it. I used bits and pieces of that discussion with Dr. Johnson, and I was looking at that. I was just thinking, wow, Dr. Johnson knows an awful lot about Black Panther, and I just, not being familiar with the character, um, he taught me a lot about the character. So I want to acknowledge Dr. Johnson, all the guys from the Black Manosphere who taught me a lot about it. Charles is knowledgeable on this lore. Artisan is knowledgeable on the history of the Black Panther. Salchi the Equalizer, he shared something with me on Instagram yesterday that I'm going to read, but I wanted to acknowledge them, and I wanted to pull out the point here that this is a fascinating thing in that there are two populations of people looking at this movie. So there are people who are unfamiliar with the history of the character, unfamiliar with who and what T'Challa and Wakanda Forever and what Wakanda are supposed to be. there are people who are unfamiliar with the fact that Shuri is basically a newcomer in the history here, and then you have people who are really really knowledgeable on what this is supposed to be. So I'm going to read something. This person is going to remain anonymous because they didn't ask to be mentioned. But this is someone from my Facebook network who saw the movie and they left this comment. The entire, that's capitalized, cast, including Winston Duke, who was not pictured. Yeah, this mural here is not pictured. The entire cast, and interestingly, Daniel Kaluuya's picture is here because he wasn't. I didn't see him in the movie. The entire cast deserves multiple awards for their performances in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Okay, it was incredibly moving, and they paid beautiful tribute to Chadwick Boseman. Okay, so that was in large part how they sold the movie. We're honoring Chadwick. We're paying tribute to Chadwick. We're doing what we're doing. We're not recasting the character in honor of Chadwick. Okay. Salchi left me this. Again, I want to acknowledge the guys, all the guys who have schooled me on this character. I was more of a DC guy. And when this was first released years ago, when it was announced that the Black Panther would be introduced in Captain America Civil War, I didn't know that it was an actual character. I thought it was something else. So for those people who are unfamiliar with the character and why there was such a large fuss over him not being recasted, and even how he was portrayed in the first movie, because those who know the source material have said the way Black Panther slash T'Challa was portrayed in the first movie was not 100% accurate, and Marvel and Disney were wrong for that. Let me see if I can get my T-shirt more in the picture here. Oh yeah, okay. So Salchi wrote this, and thank you, Salchi, for pointing this out. This was very, very okay. Salchi wrote this. So my knowledge, I need to just pick up a graphic novel and just read it. Salchi wrote this. T'Challa was an Oxford University graduate who earned his PhD in physics, engineering, economics, political science, and psychology. So the real T'Challa, and I'm sure if Chadwick Boseman was handed this script, he would have played this as well, but they wrote these things out and gave them to Shuri, which was part of the controversy surrounding the first movie. Let's see. He was once married to Storm. In other words, they downplayed his intelligence. Dr. Johnson pointed that out in our live stream and had him chasing. Okay, this was another controversy surrounding the first movie. And this came out toward the end of this one. Something related to this came out toward the end of this last night's movie, and had him chasing the affections of a dismissive woman who was nowhere near on par with Storm. Now they have killed off the character who is alive in the comic. Okay. Killmonger earned his PhD in engineering and an MBA at MIT. They downplayed his intelligence and killed off the character. Even though he wasn't killed until May 2021, Black Panther Volume 7, Issue 25. Chiwetel Ejiofor would have been perfect for the role. Okay, so for those unfamiliar with the fuss leading up to the movie and why there were so many hashtag recast T'Challa's, that's why, because they didn't portray the character properly, even though Chadwick did a good job acting the role, and then they killed the character off for this second installment. I got a lot of reaction over on TikTok last night when I showed that I was going to see the movie. I'm going to read one or two of those comments, then I'll move on. Again, I want to give some other guys a chance to speak as well. Come on, swipe up. By the way, guys, I'm on TikTok as well. You can follow me at Anwar Dunbar 76 or Anwar Youssef 76. I'm on TikTok. Okay. Giddy said, I, I think when I finished, I said, it was good. It wasn't the greatest movie. Giddy says, I agree. It was a very confusing movie. They went in so many directions. Let's see. There were other comments, but that's the one that stood out. I'm still figuring out how this TikTok works. Okay, there were more comments. Anyway, so those are some of the reactions to the movie. Again, there's a population of people who are unfamiliar with the source material, and they're looking at this grand spectacle, and people call me Kuku Khan, and my enemies call me Namor. People are looking at this grand spectacle, and then there are people who are familiar with the source material who are looking and saying, you know what, this just isn't right. This what they've done isn't right. What they've done with the main character isn't right, and this is an abomination. Okay, so my thoughts on the movie, and then I'm gonna drop the link in the chat. Now, I kind of looking at the trailer, I kind of knew what to expect going in. The movie looked very female centric. Um, and if you looked at the marketing surrounding the movie, they were targeting a specific demographic. I think this movie was really targeted at Black girls. I mean, they were saying certain things throughout the movie in terms of themes and what the story was about. But I think this movie was in large part targeted at Black girls, to get Black girls involved in science, because the Target commercial centered around Riri, Ironheart, and I think that in large part is what their marketing campaigns were about. So I watched extensive reviews beforehand. I kind of spoiled it for myself. I watched Critical Drinkers. I watched Chris Gore's review. I watched Artisan's review Thursday night, so I knew what to expect. And so briefly, you open up. The spoilers are coming, so if you want to turn this off, you can turn it off. When you open up, when the movie starts, and they replaced the typical Marvel montage with a montage of Chadwick, which was cool. The movie starts. Shuri's working with a three-dimensional DNA um, model to try to save T'Challa. T'Challa's sick. His 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 life is his life is fleeting. His heart rate's going down, and she's trying to figure out the modeling for an antidote to whatever it is he had. They didn't really tell us what it was, though it seemed to be related to the heart-shaped flower. He dies. We go through the funeral. We go through the processional in the street, the ceremony, the people dancing. You see that iconic picture of him there, and then his body gets taken up by one of the Wakanda jets, and he gets taken away. First part of the movie, Shuri's mourning his loss along with Queen Ramonda, and then meanwhile, the rest of the world has issues with Wakanda for not readily sharing its technology and its vibranium. And then we find out that there's another source of vibranium, and then another nation is mining the bottom of the ocean for more vibranium, and that's when Namor, that's when his people appear. And so what happens is this ends up being a bit of an ecology and an environment story. So Namor is unhappy because they're mining the bottom of the ocean for this vibranium, and they're disturbing the environment down at the bottom of the ocean. So that's when he shows up to Wakanda, and he demands that they help put a stop to this. And he wants the scientist who created this thing to help come stop it. So it turns out the scientist is at MIT, and it's Riri. Again, there's spoilers here. So Shuri and Okoye go over to MIT. They bring Riri back, and Riri's a prodigy. She's a STEM, science and technology prodigy. She's built all these things. She's got side incomes based upon her technology and STEM prowess. And now Namor's people want her, and Shuri and Okoye want to protect her and take her back to Wakanda. And it turns out she's built her own little Iron Man suit. So that's the first part of the movie. They don't tell us how she built the Iron Man suit. They don't tell us how she developed this strong intellectual prowess. They don't really tell us that. She just did it. Second part of the movie, Shuri's at the bottom of the ocean in Namor's world. Was it Tolakan, something like that? And Namor's trying to broker a deal with her to get Wakanda to protect, to help them stop whatever the other nations are doing in terms of mining the vibranium. They want to kill Riri. Then you go to the next phase of the movie, which is what's her name? Nakia. Ramona goes, finds Nakia. Nakia helps Shuri and Riri escape. And then the final stage of the movie is Shuri figuring out how to artificially recreate the heart-shaped flower. That gives her the Black Panther power. And then Riri helps her come up with a plan to trap Namor, weaken Namor, and get him to yield and call his people off. And of course, they do that. There's a fight to the end. There's a fight to the death between Shuri and Namor at the end. Namor yields, and ultimately there's a peaceful armistice. I'm skipping over a lot of things intentionally, um, and I'm going to go right to the end. I'm going to drop the link in a second, and I've intentionally skipped over things. At the end, they threw us a bone. They threw us a bone. I thought that initially they threw us a bone because what they revealed basically was that T'Challa has a son. Spoiler alert. And when I saw that T'Challa had a son, I said, okay, well, we've been calling for them to recast the character. It looks like they listened to us. They listened to us, and they've attempted to make this right. So no harm, no foul. That's what I thought when I initially left the theater. And then when I listened to Dr. Johnson's stream, Dr. Johnson did a stream with Artisan last night. It seems as though there was a little bit more woven into that. There was a little bit more um, meaning to that. So it looks like eventually, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like the mantle will eventually get passed back to a male uh, named T'Challa. But there was some question as to how all of that was executed. Dr. Johnson pointed out, and I'm pointing back to him because this didn't occur to me when I was watching this. Dr. Johnson pointed out that they may have snuck that in. They may have rushed that in at the end because they saw how much backlash there was to what their original plan was. So that was the first thing. And then the other thing, Officer Faulkner, if you're still out there, Officer Faulkner and some of the other guys were talking about his birthright. So the way they wrote it up, T'Challa and Nakia agreed that the child would go grow up in Haiti. I believe it was Haiti. But he'd go grow up in a third world country because the pressure of being king and having to go through all the formalities of being the official prince and king of Wakanda, it would have been too much for T'Challa Jr. And then the other thing was it showed it showed the birth of T'Challa's seed and almost a broken family paradigm. And as I was at the gym working out just now, I was thinking, you know what? But isn't that what's happening today? Aren't a lot of children born in a broken, at least in our Wakanda here in the United States. Is there some truth to that? Is there some truth to the fact that a lot of kids are born like that without the parents being together and the mother and the father coming to some sort of agreement and the child growing up over here and the father's growing up over here? But for the child of a glorious king, of a glorious civilization that's supposed to be ahead of the rest of the world, yeah, that seemed in hindsight, that seems wrong. So and it seems kind of crooked. And that was one of the issues with the first movie, and that's the nature of the relationship of T'Challa and Nakia. So she pointed out that T'Challa was at one point married to Storm, and in Black Panther, he's negotiating this relationship with Nakia, who seems to care more about her career than being the next queen of Wakanda and sitting alongside him. And then when you think about that, isn't that reflective of the times as well? Isn't that somewhat what's going on now? Not wanting to be a traditional wife, and wanting to be more of this career woman who's kind of put that first, and then everything else has to fit around that. Even though in this case, you would be the queen of the most technological advanced and most um, in the most advanced society, which is above and more advanced than all of the other first world countries on the planet Earth. So, in summary, I didn't think the movie was that spectacular for the amount of buzz that it caused. I see what they were as a writer myself. I'm always asking myself, I'm going into a movie, what are they trying to say? So the movie had it had definite themes about the environment, and about black and brown coalitions, um, geopolitics. That's kind of on a macro level. On a micro level, it was about Shuri coming to grips with her brother dying and then her taking the mantle of the Black Panther. And in terms of that, I thought the entire movie it was you guys know it was just overall it was just more female centric. There was no T'Challa. There was also no Daniel Kaluuya. There was no Wakabi. There was no Wakabi. We did have Umbaku and the Jabari, but as they pointed out in Dr. Johnson's stream last night, they almost played a well, not almost, they did play a secondary role, and they were there for support. And even though Umbaku played a quasi leadership role, I mean, he and his men were still there for support, and that came out on the final fight with the where they were throwing the Dora Milaje over the side of the ship, and they were there for supporting them. They were there for support. They weren't there to be leaders of Wakanda. And even when you looked at all the shots of Wakanda, it looked to me like you saw more women than men. And there's for those watching this and saying, why is he saying this? There's nothing wrong with women, but it just looked like they were trying to tell us this is a female dominated society, women rule, um, and this is what Wakanda is now. What stands out to me is the scene where Shuri took her synthetic heart-shaped flower and she engaged Umbaku in this arm wrestling thing, and she little Shuri slowly overpowered Umbaku. I didn't like that. I thought that was kind of jive. I thought that was kind of weird. I mean, she took the heart-shaped herb, but what it says is this little woman can overpower this big man. and so there was a lot of that type of messaging in the movie. So I wasn't impressed with it. I thought that I like the fact that they at least laid the seeds for a male Black Panther to come back. I think they should have just recasted him and not taken this long and windy road. But I think the first movie there was definitely a father son type of dynamic, and with this one there was a mother daughter dynamic. So I guess they wanted to investigate that more. But I think they just should have put another actor in there and rolled with what the character was supposed to be. Guys, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. That's what I saw. I will probably. There were some other things going on there. There were some. What's the term you guys are using it for now? The L Gibbet. The L Gibbet. Apparently there was an L Gibbet person in there. They looked so much like a woman I didn't really notice. But there are probably other things I would see if I watched it again. The question is, will I go back and see that a second time? And will moviegoers go back and see that a second, third, and fourth time the way that they did for the first Black Panther movie? I don't know. There were a lot of people out there. The drummer was there, but it'll be interesting to see if this generates as much buzz and as much excitement over the long term as the first movie did. I'm gonna drop the link now, guys. If some of you guys, the Nice Palace, if anybody, Charles, if you're out there and you want to come up, you are welcome to do so. I'll open it up for the next hour. The football game is coming on at 3:30. I want to go watch that, but let me know what you guys think. The link is there. Have you seen it? Are you boycotting it? If you saw it, what do you think? If anyone wants to come up, the link is there. Oh boy, the whole gang is here. Welcome to Equalizer. Hold on.
Good afternoon.
All right. Charles, you're up first. You want to go ahead?
I'm gonna just let you know I didn't see it because I could pretty much predict what was gonna happen. There was gonna be some, I hate to say it, a black feminist love fest, and all men took a back seat. All men, including the titular character, Black Panther T'Challa. We don't come to see Shuri to become the Black. It made no sense for her to become Black Panther. So wait a minute. You get the heart shaped herb that you synthesize, and let's say how much would you say she weighed? About 115, 120 pounds.
Yeah, she's thin. She's tiny.
Very tiny woman. So even if I let's say you know give the heart shaped herb, and this tells you about the selfishness of this go girl power, this black girl magic. Why didn't you give it to Mbaku, who would fare way better than you? I want you to point this out, right? I want you to think about this. Who would you rather go to send to war, Mbaku or Shuri?
M'Baku.
And here's another part, right? Technically, she should be the queen of Wakanda, right?
Yes.
I want you to think about this. She takes the herb, she does all this stuff, and she's not even fit to sit on a throne. And this is what I call, and I'm just going to say it, it's bad writing. It's horrific writing. It's pandering to a super extent. And I knew they were going to make. I'm just surprised they didn't show any Chadwick, any body doubles, nothing. Oh, he just had a disease. lazy writing, especially when you have the when you have the heart-shaped herb, which heals you. Think about this. From what I'm reading and hearing, she gets impaled by a vibranium spear and still moves around and flips over and does all this, super heroic stuff. But the same couldn't be done with a much larger, better trained. I mean, you got to think about it. Killmonger was basically a tier one operator for, like a black ops special forces unit, like SOCOM. And it's like it doesn't make sense with the first movie. It's like they kind of supercharged her, but downplayed the other guys. But go ahead, Doc.
Charles, you forgot. She defeated this being who was considered almost on par with the devil, who's been alive for hundreds of years. Okay, and she has no fighting skill, but she beats him.
Oh yeah, by the way.
Match?
Oh yeah, by the way, don't forget Namor is also frequent sparring partners with guys in the comics like the Incredible Hulk, Thor, and others. He's in that like League of Power, and he's a warrior king of 5 centuries. Get out of here! Get out of here!
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, that was the other thing. Well, yeah, the spear. I watched spoilers before I went to go see it, so I knew the spear thing was coming. But yeah, she did survive. She got impaled by the spear, cut that in half, and then freed herself and just kept going.
But Killmonger died though.
Yeah, from being bludgeoned.
Yeah,
something. A knife. Was it a knife or a dagger?
It was a spear, like a dagger spear.
So how is that possible? And he technically isn't dead. Well, I mean, when the movie was made, so it's like I don't know. Like I mean, I didn't expect any. I don't expect these movies to be 100% on par with the comics, but like they're changing, like the characters, like their essential, like their essence. It just doesn't make sense. It literally doesn't. It's like just imagine Superman not having power. Just take Superman's power away. That's what it did with T'Challa. It just doesn't make any sense.
It's not going to. It's like you got Superman with all his abilities, and guess what? You give his pinnacle power, which everybody knows is his physical strength. You give it to Lois Lane.
And then he dies.
And then he dies off scene. Not even a body double or like, some type of wax figure in his place. Just off scene, he just dies. And think about this, right? How can a man who graduated from Oxford be outdone by his little sister? She's the reason, and even in the movies, from what I read part of it, he's the reason why she got into science.
Correct. Obviously, I mean, the man did create a different aspect of physics. It just, for people who actually know the comics, and people get upset when we bring it up because they just think we're trying to bring women down. We're like, no, we're factually speaking about what happened in the comics, and it just goes over people's heads. They just think we're trying to keep black women down. It's like, no.
I mean, they do a good job keeping us down. I mean, to be honest, an excellent job keeping us down. I mean, you got to think about it. It gets very insulting for lifelong comic book readers and fans to see them circumvent such a historic, fictional character. And people will say, well, it's just still black. No, it isn't. Because when we celebrate black culture, and how many times are black men celebrated, especially ones who progressed in STEM, progressed in law enforcement, progressed in the military. We don't celebrate male heroes. We celebrate the thugs. We celebrate criminals. If you're committed a crime and let's just say it's suspected that the police did something foul play. Nothing proven, just alleged or suspected. Even if it was proven, even if it was proven that the police had no wrongdoing or no foul play, guess what we're going to do? We're going to go out there and we're going to utilize that black person's body and get over and make millions of dollars and go live in places where we're supposed to be protesting, allegedly. And this is what I feel about the movie. You used T'Challa, and unfortunately, shout out to the brother Chadwick. They used Chadwick's passing to put together a patchwork movie and trying to pass it along as a tribute.
Yeah.
If you really wanted to make a tribute of the guy, recast. Think about this, fellas. How many times have they recast James Bond?
Must be
Superman.
10 or 12 of those guys, right?
How many times have they recast Batman?
I was just about to say, I mean, everybody. They've recasted everybody. So it again, just sticking to the comics, it literally doesn't, like, they're just changing the story all over the place. And even T'Challa's son in the movie, again, they have him again. They had the man chasing this, like, come on, like this, for lack of words, chick, when in the comics, technically he actually had a child with Storm. So it's like, I don't know what to do. Like, it's just all over the place. It's,
what's funny, I mean, I thought, well, legend has it, one of the agreements with Stan Lee was that they would stay close to what the actual comics were. So does that mean, like, when he died, they just said, okay, we could just do whatever we want now? This is...
it looked like they were already starting to do that before he died, because even when you look at when they brought in Captain Marvel in the comics, is she strong? Yes, but was she doing the stuff that she was doing in the movies and the comics? Hell no. I mean, in the comics, she was basically she was messing stuff up. She was like your little sister, because truly it was like they replaced Captain Marvel for Marvel, who realistically in the comic, he's the main character as to why they beat Thanos. Well, Thanos the first time. So it's like, again, and Stanley was alive at that time. So it's like, even when I saw that, I was like, wait a second, I don't understand, because they basically replaced her for Marvel, who is far stronger and superior to her in every way. But she's this, it just didn't make, like, it just didn't make any sense. And I was telling people that, and of course, a lot of women were getting upset when I was saying that, but I'm like, but you don't know the comics. I'm just stating comic fact. Now,
it's funny
Woman,
because they been...
Yeah.
It's funny because, like you said, they had her go against the Hulk. She literally makes a 20-foot deep crater, and the Hulk has his arms behind his back and said, "You're done," and he knocks her into orbit. Even one thing you could say, this is the difference between DC and Marvel. How do you have less feminism in the Wonder Woman movie than you do in majority of Marvel movies?
Exactly. Doesn't make sense.
And I'm going to tell you, even when she went up against Superman, there's a hierarchy in power and strength there. The headbutt had her heard around the world. And it's funny because it didn't take away from the power and skills of Wonder Woman. Even in the comics, Wonder Woman, who is like probably second or third in the strength of the heroes, she's up there. She's literally physically one of the most powerful heroes in DC Comics. I think she's on par with Shazam, but one below Superman, which is not bad company, by the way, by a stretch.
Exactly. But she's a better fighter, though. She's a better fighter than Superman. And
yeah, she's a better fighter than Superman.
All the time. He's stronger
and she's
than her.
Probably equal, if not superior, to Batman in hand-to-hand combat. She's on that level.
Yep.
But you don't hear feminists, and this is what I said on Dr. T's channel. You never hear feminists bring up the Wonder Woman movies. And notice you had to do your Elizabeth's scene in a Wakanda Forever. I don't even want to call it Black Panther too, because it's no Black Panther. You had to have these racial, the Hispanic and black, black and brown thing going on. And I'm like, why can't you just tell a good story?
You know what? Hey, Charles, hold on right there. I was at the gym working out, and I was thinking about that. Now, Namor doesn't really, the way the character was created, he doesn't really have a race, does he? He's not Hispanic.
No, he's not Hispanic. He's actually Namor was he comes literally. I think he was around 1939, 1940. He's old character. Like he literally was created before Marvel Comics was called Marvel Comics. It was called Timely Comics at that time. And you got to think about it. Namor was a hybrid human Atlantean.
Yeah,
Atlanteans have blue skin. His father comes from the surface world. His mother was like the princess or queen of Atlantis. So even though more than technically, he's a mutant. That's why in the comics, you'll even see him aligned with the X-Men because he's considered a mutant. And what they did was they interjected culture that really wasn't theirs because, it was like they were warrior people, but they never had no Mayan Aztec connection.
right. And so, as I was at the gym working out, I was thinking that's probably with the writers of that movie. That's probably what they were trying to say was form your black and brown alliance. Individuals of African descent get together with individuals of Latino descent, work together, protect each other. And I think that's that last scene when he was telling his daughter or whomever, we're going to work together with them. I think that's what the writers were subliminally trying to say to the audience.
It's kind of hard, Doctor Dunbar, especially recently in California when you had a politician referring to a little black girl as a monkey. And I've noticed this through the years that they constantly want to get this black and brown thing. And I, part of my parents comes out is that everybody wants to join black people until they get ahead and then they forget about you. And I'm not trying to bring up any racial disparities. I'm just telling the truth about what it is. It's like look at many neighborhoods in California. Do you see a lot of black and brown interactions? No, you see a lot of black and brown, like a lot of black brown people, being prejudiced or racist against the black people.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you get the sentiments of, the black American whipping boy. Think about it. When I heard the part about M'Baku going down for one punch, I'm like, really? This guy hold his own against space creatures from Thanos' army? It's inconsistent lore, inconsistent writing. If I was a military guy, I played one on TV, of course, Doctor. I'm just thinking to myself, give me your biggest, strongest, nastiest guys. So we're going to amplify him even further what we did with Shuri, and he already has combat experience.
Exactly.
And
I think we just briefly lost Charles. Now, on that same vein, Salchi, you're in the financial sector. One of the things that stood out to me before the movie was released was the marketing. Thinking about the Sprite commercials, the Target commercials. Most of the marketing was towards black girls.
Yeah.
Which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with marketing towards black girls, but when you think about the historic perspective, this was a black male character that was designed for black boys, and it's been taken and.
Well, to me, the trope is that black women and especially black girls have been, abused and all this other stuff for, exaggerated forever. So they disproportionately, again, from affirmative action, which was obviously originally for black men. So they've been getting all this funding injected into them since the 60s. And what have they done with it? But to this day, they market that the black girls are underfunded, they're not receiving help. But what do you mean? They have help everywhere. I mean, like everywhere, for schooling, for health. I mean, for everything. So I just see how easily people are swayed with the marketing and the propaganda. And then if we come out and just speak actual facts, we hate our mothers, you know, we can't get a girl and all kinds of nonsense. But it's like, no, that's not the point we're talking about. We're talking about, okay, you guys are complaining, but you are getting fun. Like you've been getting billions of dollars, like billions. How much more do you need? Like, I mean, realistically. And then if anything, if we speak out, then we're just trying to take stuff from them, which is not the truth. We're just saying, okay, you guys complaining, okay, that there aren't any supposed good men. Okay, so we're telling you that the homes are broken. We're breaking it down per policy, and what happened, what the results were after various policies. And then we're saying, okay, well, these are the solutions, so we can raise stronger families, so both black girls and black boys become, good or great black men and black women. But that's the problem too. So to me, that tells me they really don't want the solution, or that's not the solution that they want. That tells me they just want control and they want all the resources. So seeing that actually sells, obviously, when it comes to these movies, it makes sense. I mean, just to sell, books, or to keep certain groups or a specific sector like black men, to keep them in the position that they're in. Yeah, okay, it makes sense. But long term, it makes absolutely no sense to me. It just doesn't.
It's kind of like, and this is what I get from women. And I'm pretty sure all of us on here are at least 35 and above. I'm 40. So we read comic books because we actually enjoyed them and loved the stories, loved the characters, loved the battles, loved the artwork, loved the literature.
Yep.
Women always are trying to go into male spaces because they think, well, I want to see what's so fun about these comics. They were calling you nerds, they were calling you geeks. Oh, that's for boys to like grow up. But now, since you see them in a feature film, oh, this is so beautiful. When was this
Money.
beautiful now? It's money, it's power. Here it is. Every time women come into a male space, they ruin it. And because they're like, well, we don't want to feel included. I was in a veterans, business class for, small own business owners or starting up a business. And it was the black female who said this, older black female, old enough to be my mother. Where's the female? And I have a security firm. Where's the female protecting? All I see is the men, and they're protecting the women. And I had to look at her, and I'm like, man, there's not a lot of female protectors.
Yeah.
I had to break it down. Like 88% of your police and military are men. 92% of your firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics are men.
Yeah.
Your construction, if I try to get a picture of a woman construction worker, that's going to be difficult. But they want to say we can do the rough and tumble stuff too until it's time to become rough and tumble.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Doc.
But Charles, I mean, looking at the movie, I mean, I went to go see the movie, and you guys pointed out, and I saw it, that end battle scene was the Jabari throwing the Dora Milaje over the side of the boat to fight the Atlanteans. Is that what they're trying to reverse engineer, to get more women to say, we're going to go into security, we're going to go into law enforcement, we're going to go into the military? Because that's what the movie was showing.
You wanted to break this down. What a friend of mine told me. He
Go
said
ahead.
they're trying to do an initiative. They're trying to do 70 for 30. They're trying to make 30% of law enforcement officers and military personnel women. I want you to think about this, right? When all these people try to come at me and say, well, we have women who went through special forces, I say, no, she just went through the certificate. She didn't go through special forces training. Why? because you're expecting me to believe when you're malnutrition, when you're not fed on a regular basis, so it's impossible to keep your muscle mass up. Your immune system is shot. You're going through all this stuff. You're losing weight, and somehow you're still going to be able to put a 60, 70 to 100-pound rucksack and still move. This breaks down grown men.
Yeah.
And once again, the Dora Milaje, for some odd reason, are made the military. They're his ceremonial wives. They're the equivalent of the Secret Service.
Yes.
They're ceremonial. Yes, they're well trained, but they're not the unbeatable force.
You're muted.
Okay. I was gonna say something else. I think this was definitely written towards a specific audience.
Yeah.
They were going for the. Oh, I know what it was. I was gonna say. No, I know. You know, when you're that far up and you're a director like Ryan Coogler, you want to make as many blockbuster movies as you can. Maybe you don't care about the script, but I mean, does he even care? Did he even look at this himself and say, you know what, we need to tweak this. I can't make this movie. This is no good. I mean, did Winston Duke at least say, I don't know if this is right? Did somebody say something?
I mean, if I can't sit here and say that there's no way that they were being intellectually dishonest, because when you write these scripts, especially if it's coming from, it doesn't matter, even if it's from a book or even from a comic, you have to read the source material. So there's no way he didn't know. I mean, I can't give him a pass for that. There's no way. There's just no way. So he must have known. Now, based on the contracts and obviously these new execs that they have, this Victoria lady, you know, they're pushing in the LGBT and you know, all this feminist agenda. They're trying to push that in at the expense of the characters. Now, if you guys wanna, we don't care if you use the female character. But really what they're doing is that they're changing the male characters and they're replacing them with female characters and exaggerating their abilities. That's not even there in the comics. That's the problem. So they're literally lying. Like, you can look at the comic. You can go online, look at the comic, go to a comic book store right now, and you're not gonna see this there. So it's like, okay, so what are you really doing? So I can honestly say that there's no way that he did not know. Now, whatever was in there with the contract, maybe he had to make another one, and you know, he was getting a lot of pushback. I mean, I don't know what was going on behind the scenes, but there's no way I can give him a pass because the comics are right there, man. It's just there's no pass.
and you're talking about Ryan Coogler. I'm looking at Ryan because Ryan is like he's really a feminist. When he was saying it's, we're black, black female directors are better than the black male ones, and the same thing for actors and actresses. He's a feminist, and it shows in his material. Like, did T'Challa really feel like the king, even in Black Panther 1?
No.
I want you to think about that. He didn't feel like the king. There was only one scene where he was with Okoye, and Okoye was saying something, and he kind of checked her. She bowed her head. That's the only one.
Yeah.
He was not the king, and then Sherry's doing all this stupid stuff to him. I understand brothers, sisters do things like that, but that's still your head of state. That's still your head of government. You're not gonna, your sister, if you were president of the United States, is not gonna undermine you or joke you publicly, will she? And by the way, you have too many people saying, "Well, Sherry was Black Panther in the comics."
Very short
Yeah,
period.
for three issues.
Yeah.
She was not a significant. She, if you really want to say it, she failed at Black Panther, being a Black Panther. She failed at being a monarch because that's when Wakanda got flooded. And what happened was the Sherry. If it was the Sherry in the comics, okay, I could see seeing her being Black Panther because she was a
Yeah.
warrior.
Yes.
You got
Yes.
a science geek
Yeah.
where you could do it all. It's funny. You never seen anybody undermine Steve Rogers being Captain America. You never it's funny because notice how Marvel is trying to replace all their characters with females. And it's not bad. It's not good enough that Jane Foster can be Thor. She has to be the mighty Thor.
Yeah.
And she's doing stuff that Thor couldn't do with the hammer. And then did you see the symbolism at the end? Even though that's Chris Hemsworth's, actual daughter.
Yeah.
Notice he gets the hammer, which is smaller, and she gets the axe Stormbreaker, which is much larger.
Yeah.
I want you to think about this. She-Hulk, which is an abomination to that character, was enough in a bunch of feminist tropes. Here's Jennifer Walters in the comics. Jennifer Walters loves Bruce Banner. She doesn't look at him as a cousin. She looks at him as a brother. They literally grew up together. And she literally felt bad for Bruce, supported him, and very protective of him. She would never snap at him and say, "Well, you think you're angry? I'm always angry. You never had to be cat called." Okay, you're upset from being cat called by construction workers and random men in the street. Even though I never understood women get upset when men don't talk to them, but you're going to compare being cat called to fighting Thanos, to fighting off invasions, and being hunted down by the government for experimentations of being weaponized or murdered. And notice it's the same tropey feminist rhetoric you hear in these movies. You think you got to struggle? You don't know how it is to be a woman. What, protected? And that's the whole thing that gets it. Like, thank God I had a female officer. She's a sergeant now. Just tell me that Black Adam sucked.
What?
And I'm laughing to myself because I know why. Because the Black Adam movie didn't have any feminist tropes.
That's right.
The Black Adam movie was for men. Women can enjoy it, but it was primarily for men. And when women don't see anything that shouts them out like, "I am woman, hear me roar," they get upset about this. They get upset about this. We don't defecate on their movies, but they'll come to us and say, "Well, where are the female superheroes? They're coming." Like coming. You wait till you get the ethnic movie to do all these tropey things. But I want to hear y'all's thoughts on that.
Doctor, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're just like I said, man, they're just using men, especially black men, just to get the money back, and for political influence. You see it. I mean, it's everywhere. Corporate, social media is it's everywhere, but they don't see that everything that they touch actually goes on a decline. Everything. And then when the stuff goes wrong, then they want to blame it on the man or the black man. So it's like, but we already told you. So it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So that's why I say now, I just say just leave. For me, I just leave them alone. Leave them alone to their own devices. Let them destroy themselves, and do not save them like at all. And don't even say anything to them after they destroy themselves, because the way they're doing it, it just like they're trying to. It's like they're trying to change biology and physiology, like hardcore. and
Yeah.
and they want everybody to believe it. And if you give out facts, you're the bad guy. I mean, it's literally crazy.
Yeah, it's like go ahead.
So Charles, I'll just add in. I didn't see the last Thor movie. I didn't have a desire to see it.
It was terrible.
I
You didn't miss
I just
anything.
didn't have a desire to see it.
It was horrible. The Thor movie was the Caucasian version of Wakanda Forever.
Yes, I mean, Thor. Oh my! It was like I was done. Like I'm at a point where, and I stated this. I mean, I'm only really looking forward to hopefully Kang and Blue Marvel, but I'm pretty much done because it's just been trash. Like
What did I tell you, Anwar? I said DC's. Remember when I told you DC's gonna be like, don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years.
Okay, they're trending upwards. Well, yeah, but definitely with Henry Cavill coming back and
Henry Cavill, The Rock. This 8 years.
yeah,
And
it sounds like management. Yeah, management is cleaning house over there, and they want to make quality superhero movies.
Yeah, it's the fact that you got to have a love affair with the fans, especially with fans who grew up with this. People even older than us still read comics.
Yeah.
Think about it. You have all this wokeism. Everybody has a social issue. Think about it. When they had the New Mutants was probably one of the most diverse cast of characters, especially the '90s version.
Yep.
You literally had a black female who was handicapped but still was capable. You had a black man leading Night Thrasher. You had a couple of ethnicity here, and the team still had their issues, but they got it together.
Yeah.
Come back around 2019, about 2019. Oh, they had to make these gender fluid characters. Like, really? And I always look at this because if you look at historically of every culture, when they start this gender fluidity stuff, that's the downfall of that culture usually.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking and saying, oh, go beat up on anybody who's in the same sex. No, not even close to that. I'm just going by historical facts. I said if the boys are scared or feminized and don't protect the people, the women, and the children, invaders will come and destroy you. And it's been proven throughout history when you minimize the boy's education, experience, manhood, masculinity, warriorhood, your country's done. Your days are numbered. Think about it. You didn't make T'Challa the brilliant scientist. Think about it. He's like an ass kicking Dr. Dunbar, like just you can do it all. But yet we don't get Dr. Dunbar and we acclaim and put him up on a pedestal and all his accomplishments be held in high esteem and acclaim. No, you gotta dumb yourself down just to be with a chick who has a certification in, word process word, Microsoft Word or something. Now we don't build the guys who actually achieve things anymore. Think about it.
Yeah.
I've seen the commercials you talked about. You couldn't go to, even if you had Cherie or Riri Williams, you couldn't go to a black boy and a black girl and say, "Hey, you could do this too."
Yeah, I being a STEM professional myself, I think that was very egregious because you're pointing this at one gender, you're pointing this at one. Yeah,
and again, it doesn't make sense even in the real world, because even when women bring that up, or especially BWs, I say, okay, fine. Now let's look at the facts. Let's look at what you guys go to college for, what you guys enroll in. Let's look at that. Then let's look at what you guys graduate in. You guys are not leading in STEM. So we're not being sexist at all. We're telling you exactly what you guys are doing as a group. So there's no argument. So that's telling me is all it is emotionalism. That's fine. You can feel however you want to feel, but if you're not in STEM, or if you're not in the trades, and you're not in the top percentile, you really don't have anything to say. I mean, realistically.
Well, it begs the question: can a movie spark a movement where that can be reversed? Is that what they think? Is that what?
That's what they're trying.
They've been trying to do it for years, but again, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. They've been giving them billions of dollars for decades. Now they're going into the movies. It's still not pushing the needle.
I want you to think about this, right? They did studies for years where they raised boys and girls neutral. They gave GI Joes and Thundercats and Transformers to girls. They gave Barbies and kitchen sets to boys and let them play with both sets of toys.
Yeah.
Guess what happened? The boys still went to male-dominated professions, and the girls still went to female-dominated professions. You can't fight biology,
yeah.
and that's the point that they're trying to do so badly. Yeah. Here it is. You effeminize your men to the point that you're raising boys you wouldn't want to date.
Correct.
I've even a friend of mine. She's a PE teacher. She was talking about her 17-year-old son was crying about how stressed out he was. And she's like, what are you stressed out? You were driving a car to school since you were 16. That's not the average black child's reality. You live in a 4-bedroom house in the suburbs of PG County. I'm like, what the hell is he stressed about? You're from DC, I'm from Baltimore. He didn't grow up in how we grew up. He knows nothing of crime and violence. And this is what you get. You get, and I hate to call her son soft, but you get this soft-hearted male that when adversity comes out, he can't deal with it. See, yep. I've always said this when I tell women this. When they said, well, you want us to submit, why can't you submit to paying the bills? I said, okay, that makes about as much sense as we're out in the woods and there's a large animal trying to attack. Should I be like, well, since you didn't cook, I shouldn't protect us? What happens if we take bills away? What happens if we go down to the technology of a steam engine or even lower? Well, we got to make shelter again. Well, we have to create fire by putting 2 rocks or some twigs and rubbing it for about a half an hour.
Yeah.
What about bills then? Oh, but you still want that protection.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll learn how to submit when your life is on the line, huh?
So it isn't real. And on top of that, women have always worked. It's just that they're looking at it from the industrial age perspective. Prior to that, women still always worked.
Exactly.
They always worked. It was whether it was in the home when they were with their father and he was a farmer or in the trades, or with their husband who was a farmer or a tradesman. Yeah. Now it was the upper tier class, socioeconomic class, as always, that they use as the standard. But you can't use that as a standard because that's a minority. That's always a less than 10% of the population. It's always been that way. So they're trying to say that that's normal. No, it's not.
No.
And even during the information age, the amount of money that a man would need to make for a man to realistically, comfortably raise a family, the woman not have to work, and have savings and investments for when they get older. Literally, it doesn't matter where you are. The man has to make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year.
Yeah.
After tax.
Exactly.
So statistically, that's not most people. That's not even 5% of the population.
That's not even 1/2 of 1%.
So again, what are we talking about here? Just say that you don't want to do X, Y, and Z, and that's fine. We're okay with that.
And it's funny that one of you mentioned this about how can movies change. I think social media and movies have given people a bit of psychosis and delusions of grandeur.
Yeah. I agree.
Because 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, a plumber will be praised. A woman will be like, I need this man. You have literally, because of media, whether if it's in the theater, the TV, your phone, your laptop. I mean, think about this. Well, movies like this are so dangerous is that they think that men have no place and no belonging. Men take the back seat. But think about this. Even the Dora Milaje couldn't have made it without that, Jabari tribe men. Umbaku held down, you know, Wakanda during the blip
Yep.
and probably defended its borders when it was vulnerable without a king and other people. So Wakanda Forever to me is like it could have been a love letter to black men and black leadership and black love. What's also insulting about this movie is that T'Challa laid into his father real thick about leaving Killmonger in LA.
Yeah.
Why would he reproduce his own? He literally had to go back into the spirit realm and fuss out his father. Why would he do that and recreate the same calamity that his father made?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that also represents that black man don't take care of their kids. That all you need to do to make a strong warrior is you get a couple of aunties and a mom. And I'm gonna tell you one of the most disturbing things I've ever heard. And I think I'm gonna say this on my show maybe today or tomorrow. And this rocked me. And this happened around on Mother's Day. No, Father's Day. This young man was saying on Facebook, Happy Father's Day to my mother. She was a real one.
Yeah.
I said, how can your mother be a father? Well, she was in the military. She taught me how to do all these things. See, people think that everybody in the military are equal. They're not. Majority, 75%, no, actually 85% of the jobs you get in the Army are not combat related. They're combat support.
All right.
Your mom probably got it a lot easier in certain situations than the men.
Yeah.
Your mom can say, oh, I'm having woman problems and get out of shit. Excuse my language. Have I seen this done? Yeah, I've not to just besmirch women or saying that we're men haters. We're just talking about reality and experiences we've seen. I've
Yeah.
seen so many women purposely get pregnant, purposely fake, epileptic seizures just to get out of going to Iraq, even though they are not going to be in combative roles, even though they were not going to be put on the front line, just to get out of it. Think about this. We got Wakanda Forever while Ukraine said to all the men, stay and fight. I want to say this again. We got Wakanda Forever, but the men in Ukraine were told to stay and fight. I really challenge anyone on their logic when I'm like this. If things happen to America that happen in Russia, are we gonna have the women on the front lines too? Or we just made that to look good? Because image is everything.
So Charles, I need to wrap up, but I want to end on that. I want to for people who are looking at this for the first time and wondering, okay, the title of the stream says review of Wakanda Forever. Why are these guys talking about that? And Charles, you just hit upon it because imaging and messaging matter. Because
Yeah.
these movies, you mentioned social media, people are looking at this and they're saying, okay, and they're kind of merging art into reality. And there are people who are going to look and say, okay, well, yeah, we can I can fight a man twice my size. I can arm wrestle a man down twice my size. I can go to war while the men hang back there, and I can go fight the other side. Uh, it doesn't matter if black boys get into STEM. We only want black girls in. So the imaging and the messaging matter because people are looking at that movie and they're gonna apply that to their real lives. You guys have any parting shots?
Yeah. Obviously appreciate the space. Yeah, as you just said, I mean, it's programming, and that's why originally television was called. It was a television program. I mean, I don't understand why a lot of these things are hard to understand. It's just right there in your face.
Well, Salchi, the other thing is, I mean, ideally, it should be entertainment. We should be going
correct.
to be entertained for a couple of hours, and then we go back to our real lives. But it shouldn't be social programming.
Correct.
It should ideally it shouldn't be social and ideological programming.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's what they're using these comic book characters for, unfortunately.
That's right. Yep.
Charles?
I'm going to say this. Always a pleasure, good doc. Black men, support black male media, please. This is important because, as you can see, nobody's going to represent you correctly or properly as other black men will and speak about these issues. Because many people can just laugh this off and just say it's a comic book movie, but guess what? How many people came up there in African garb and dress for both movies? It's a cultural point. And as we spoke about earlier, this is too reminiscent of the real world. This is art imitating real life. You literally have the next in line for the throne of Wakanda in a faraway country, unbeknownst to his kingdom, robbed of his birthright. I'm going to end it off with there. How many times have we robbed young black boys of their birthright? Follow me on my channel, Charles Faulkner Jr. Woo! Always a pleasure, Doc.
All right. Thank you, Charles. And thank you for your service. I meant to send I didn't send my thank you on social media to all the military.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Woo! Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to wrap up with one quick thought. I don't think Marvel Disney cares about these products anymore. I don't think they care about these. I think they have specific things they want to do with them. And I don't think they care. And Marvel Disney, if you're watching this, listen to what the people on the ground are talking about. Come out of your boardrooms, come out of your silos. And right now you're running this thing into the ground. So if you keep doing this, you're showing everybody that you just don't care about the original properties, about the comic books, about what these things were meant to be. And ultimately, Salchi showed us a nice technical analysis on IG yesterday, or was it Thursday, of the price of your stock going up and then it going into the toilet. So I don't know if you all are intentionally trying to tank the properties, but stay on this road, and that's what you're going to do. I went to go see the first Black Panther twice. I have the DVD back there. I don't have a good reason to go see Wakanda Forever again. I don't feel interested in paying another $15 to go see it. I didn't go see Thor, Love and Thunder. So go back to the formula in terms of what you guys did in phases 1, 2, and 3. That worked. Go back to that. What you've done after that has not worked, with the exception of Spider-Man No Way Home. Go back to what worked before. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed. If you want to donate something, that information is below in the description box. It's actually right here. My Cash App and PayPal are right here. I am an aspiring author. This is below in the description box. please consider joining the Big Words LLC newsletter. That is here. There's a two-paragraph greeting, and then there's a subscription button there at the bottom. And it's pretty simple. I'm looking to build my list because I'm a writer and an aspiring author myself. So that's it. If you're watching this on the playback, let me know what you thought about the movie in the comment section below. And if you're not going to see it, let me know why. Everybody's going to take something different from the movie. It is art, but they've strayed so far away from the source material that it's unrecognizable. All right, everyone, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Wakanda forever. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.